Welcome everyone. We're excited that you have joined us this evening. We'd like to start off with getting to know all the folks that are in the room and joining us this evening. So, as you feel comfortable, if you could please share your name, your role, your school or organization that you work for, or district, and where you're located. We have folks joining us from all over the country tonight.
Hello, everyone. My name is Nicole Vitus, and I am currently an interventionist for first grade. I also have a small tutoring group with fourth graders. I live in Indianapolis, and I work in the Path School, a charter school.
Awesome. Thank you so much for being courageous and coming off mute and telling us
Yes.
who you are and where you're from. We would
Yeah.
welcome anybody to do the same. If you also just want to type it in the chat, that's fine too. You can do you. Let's see what we've got here. We've got a lot of folks from Colorado. We also have some folks from California, Montebello.
I'll speak up. I'm Lisa Moore. I'm a school counselor at Stanley Lake High School in Westminster, Colorado.
In where for now?
Westminster, Colorado.
Oh, Westminster. I was about to say I'm going to be there tomorrow, but
Oh, not
Westminster,
Westminster.
that's closer to home. Glad you were able to join us. Welcome. We have a lot of folks joining us from Parker. Did the invite get circled around in Parker? Thanks for being here. Oh, and we even have somebody joining us from Rome, Georgia. I went to college in Georgia, so welcome. And Texas and Washington State. So we have lots of different folks from all across the country with a variety of expertise. We have teachers, we have counselors, we have principals, lots of different folks in the room tonight. So thank you again. We know that you have many things that you could be doing with your time this evening, and we just really appreciate you choosing to spend your time with us this evening. All right, so our topic this evening is executive functioning, how students really learn to plan, focus, and follow through. I'd like to start off by introducing myself, and then I'm going to pass it over to my colleague, Claudia. My name is Erin Coker, and this is my fourth year at GSN. I am the Senior Area Director of Leadership, Talent, and Academic Improvement. I have the privilege of being able to support schools in Colorado and across the country with a variety of different things: literacy, school improvement, before and after school programming. Before joining GSN, I worked at Denver Public Schools for 15 years. I was a teacher, literacy specialist, and school improvement partner and district administrator. I've also worked at the national level as a curriculum developer. So, Claudia, I'm going to pass it over to you.
Okay. Hello, everyone. I'm Claudia Trujillo, and this is my 33rd year in education. Before joining GSN as a senior education specialist, I taught public school in rural Colorado. I was middle school, high school, elementary instructional coach, and after I retired, I joined GSN, and I also teach higher ed classes in teacher education.
Great. Thanks, Claudia. All right, so this is our team here at GSN. We are a small but mighty team. The thing that I love most about our team is that we have, just like our room this evening, we have folks with a variety of different expertise, all in education. We have former superintendents, principals, teachers, counselors. Um, Everybody on our team has a different expertise. And then at Generation Schools Network, our mission is to increase equitable access to equitable learning experiences by partnering with schools, families, and communities to ensure that all students have the opportunity to thrive. All right.
Oh,
Claudia, you want to
I,
start us off with our warm-up activity?
I do. So in the chat, or if you want to come off mute and talk, we'd like you to think about your morning routine. Everybody has one. And what happens if it gets out of whack? You know, if you forget to set the alarm or you're not at home, you didn't sleep well, what happens if your morning routine gets disrupted?
For me, it usually means I forgot to take my pills or brush my teeth or pack my
Hmm.
lunch.
Hmm. Hmm.
I'm gonna talk again.
Yeah.
Um, I I like to wake up a little bit earlier than usual because I hate to rush in the morning. So
Hmm.
when I don't do something, I have to rush and just that feeling of, oh my gosh, I have to take this and that. Like I forget things and obviously it's not a good feeling.
Right. It, it's makes for a rough day, no kidding. I feel frazzled. When my morning routine gets disrupted, I usually forget one of my daily tasks. Yeah, because they go in order, right? They go in order and I'm like you, Nicole, I like a slow start. So I get up, make my coffee. I play all the New York Times games and connections, Wordle, all those. And if I don't get to do that, it just ruins my day. I get up with just enough time to get moving, get my few things done, and leave. I'll get grumpy if I get off track. Yes, it just blows your day. Mhm. It makes for a long day. It sure does. Okay, thanks for sharing. I think we'll see a connection as we go along. So today's agenda is we will define what executive functioning is. We will share a little bit of research about the relationship between social emotional learning and executive function. And we'll explore together some resources and strategies to teaching executive function skills because it's not something we're born with. It's not something our students come to us with. They have to be taught. Our goals for today, we hope that you will walk away understanding what research shows actually builds executive functioning, identify some practices that strengthen those skills and those that might undermine them. And we'll put into practice an evidence-based executive function strategy in your school or classroom. We hope that when you walk out of here, you can choose one and put it into action. So, what is executive functioning? If you're familiar with CASEL competencies through your work with SEL, you'll recognize the wheel and the five competencies that Castle has distinguished, the two self-awareness, self-management, all about yourself, the social awareness and relationship skills, those are all about dealing with other people and your social skills. And then there's that responsible decision making that covers it all. Castle is a leading researcher in SEL competencies, and he believes, or the organization believes, that every action we take, every decision we make falls within these five competencies. Somewhere in there, it's either about ourselves, or it's about our social skills, or it's about decision making. So that explains the wheel. And there is such a correlation between SEL skills and executive functioning skills that we've made a little chart and put the skills, on the left, you'll see the executive functioning skills, and on the right are the SEL competencies. So you can see how they go together, like following multi-step instructions. That's a self-management skill. It probably could fall into some others, but self-management is the one that we've connected it to. Avoiding distractions, self-awareness, being aware of yourself and what you need to be able to focus, controlling responses, adjusting rule changes, all of those are in the orange, so self-awareness, self-management. And And then managing long-term assignments, persistence at problem solving, those are responsible decision making. Deciding that you have to do your homework before you go play football outside or get on your phone, or that's all part of social, emotional, and executive functioning skills. And of course, collaborating with others. Definitely relationship skills. Some other executive functioning skills, impulse control. And I like this wheel because I just feel like you can probably go through these skills and identify students, right? You can look at it and say, oh, impulse control, we need to work on that. Emotional control, flexible thinking, that working memory, the whole memory process of moving information is an executive functioning skill, task initiation, organization, all of those skills that our students aren't born with, and they come to us, some of them at all different levels of skill development in executive functioning. Um, and let me think about, if you're a middle school teacher, and I spent most of my time in middle school. So if you're a middle school teacher, have you ever had a student, you needed something to be taken around the building. So you give them a piece of paper and you say, I need you to take this to the library and have Mrs. Jones sign this. And then I need you to go to the office and get a copy of it because you have to take that copy back to Mrs. Jones. And I need you to drop the next one off with Coach Watson. And so that's a multi-step instruction, right? And they leave your room with the piece of paper and they go to the library and they come back and you say, did you get that copy to Coach Watson? Oh no, I forgot that. I just dropped it with the librarian. Well, that's because they don't have that executive function skill yet. They haven't developed the multitasking, the multi-step instruction. So yeah, they got that far. They got to the library because that part they could remember. So it's not that they didn't want to. It's not that they were, goofing off. They just didn't have that skill. They don't have that skill yet. And you can relate that to so many situations where, you want to be mad. You want to be you want to be mad because you gave them all these steps, but that's when you have to step back, take a breath and say, we need to work on multi-step instructions because they don't come to you with that. Executive function and SEL, it's also academic school. Yeah, it's also academic skills. You can put organization. The multi-step instructions come with all kinds of academic assignments, right? Critical thinking, remembering, and following those instructions, so important. Strong executive function also facilitates social emotional capacities, controlling your emotions, adjusting to rule changes. Um, I'm sure you all have students that when the schedule isn't the same, they just have a terrible day. They just can't, they're so routine. And that's where the morning routine comes in. Sometimes you start your day and your kids are out of whack. Well, maybe it's because their morning routine. Maybe it's a late start day. That's why late start, I don't know about how your weather is, but here in Southern Colorado, we have a lot of late start days because it snows overnight. We need the roads clear. And so we start school 2 hours later. And it's a difficult day. I mean, you think, oh, it's going to be great. I can sleep in a little bit, or I can go early. I can get planning done. It doesn't happen that way because everyone's morning routine has been disrupted in those 2 hours. Think about the parents who have to go to work and now they have to make arrangements because now their day's 2 hours late. So those late start days really throw a wrench in everyone's normal routine. The days like early dismissals can be put in that same category because if you have an early dismissal, the day is disrupted. It's not the usual routine, and we are people of routine. All right, we're going to watch a video that's going to talk some more about executive functioning and a little bit more of what I just talked about.
Great. All right, if you all could let me know, I'm going to go ahead and play the video, but let me know if you can't hear it or if there's any issues with the sound.
Science tells us that the experiences we have in the first years of our lives actually affect the physical architecture of the developing brain. This means that brains aren't just born, they're also built over time based on our experiences. Just as a house needs a sturdy foundation to support the walls and roof, a brain needs a good base to support all future development. Positive interactions between young children and their caregivers literally build the architecture of the developing brain. Building a sturdy foundation in the earliest years provides a good base for a lifetime of good mental function and better overall health. So, just how is a solid brain foundation built and maintained in a developing child? One way is through what brain experts call serve and return interactions. Imagine a tennis match between a caregiver and a child, but instead of hitting a ball back and forth across a net, various forms of communication pass between the two, from eye contact to touch, from singing to simple games like peekaboo. These interactions, repeated throughout a young person's developing years, are the bricks that build a healthy foundation for all future development. But another kind of childhood experience shapes brain development too, and that's stress. Good kinds of stress, like meeting new people or studying for a test, are healthy for development because they prepare kids to cope with future challenges. Another kind of stress, called toxic stress, is bad for brain development. If a child is exposed to serious ongoing hardships like abuse and neglect, and he has no other caregiver in his life to provide support, the basic structures of his developing brain may be damaged. Without a sturdy foundation to properly support future development, he is at risk for a lifetime of health problems, development issues, even addiction. It's possible to fix some of the damage of toxic stress later on, but it's easier, more effective, and less expensive to build solid brain architecture in the first place. One of the things building sturdy brain architecture supports is the development of basic emotional and social skills, an important group of skills which scientists call executive function and self-regulation, can be thought of like air traffic control in the child's mental airspace. Think of a young child's brain as the control tower at a busy airport, all those planes landing and taking off, and all of the support systems on the ground simultaneously demand the controller's attention to avoid a crash. It's the same with a young child learning to pay attention, plan ahead, and remember and follow lots of rules. Like all of us, kids have to react to things happening in the world around them, while also dealing with worries, temptations, and obligations on their mind. As these demands for attention pile up, air traffic control helps a child regulate the flow of information, prioritize tasks, and above all, find ways to manage stress and avoid mental collisions along the way. Having this ability is a necessity for positive and level mental health. Developing effective air traffic control, overcoming toxic stress, and building solid brain architecture are things kids can't do on their own. And since strong societies are made up of healthy, contributing individuals, it's up to us as a community to make sure all young people have the kinds of nurturing experiences they need for positive development. To build better futures, we need to build better brains.
And maybe that's why late starts and early dismissals cause us to feel it's stress. It's stress. And anytime our routine is disrupted, it's stress. It's not as toxic as some kinds of stress, but it's stressful. And then in our brain, there's a battle. That's also a stress, right? There's a battle going on in your brain at all times between your emotions and logic. And so you have the limbic system in your brain and the prefrontal cortex that makes the decisions. And we all know that when we enter that fight or flight mode, then when we don't feel safe, then we don't make good decisions. We don't focus on learning, and we have to find a way to find the happy medium between those emotions and the logic. And the happy medium is what we call the wise mind. So you can see the diagram here. And once you develop the executive function skills to recognize when you're in the wise mind, and you can control that emotional mind, you can rely on your logic mind, then you can enter the wise mind and build those relationships and make responsible decisions. But you got to find the wise mind. And when you do, your brain works like cogs. And you take all the social emotional skills that you have learned and the executive functioning skills that you have built with practice, and they work together to begin the learning and the positive relationship building that happens as you grow older. And I love the example, the comparison of the air traffic control and your executive functioning skills, because isn't that right? I mean, there is so much input going into your brain that if you don't have those executive functioning skills, then your airplanes aren't going to fly safely, are they? So executive functioning skills and those self-regulation skills are just so important to develop in our students, but it's a conscious effort. We have to work at it. So just a quick check-in. What's something new that you learned or something that resonated with you about the connection between SEL, relationships, executive functioning, the cog, the working of the brain? Anything that stuck out with you?
All right. So Claudia talked to us a little bit about background about executive functioning and the why. And so now we're going to transition into exploring together some resources and strategies. When we started this session, we shared with you all that our hope is that you walk out of this session with strategies that you can implement tomorrow. So that's where we're going to jump in now. All right. So the research has identified a set of skills that are essential for not only school achievement, but preparation and adaptability in the future workforce and for avoiding a wide range of population health problems. So we're going to walk through some of those examples, like I just said, that you and your colleagues can use to help students build their executive functioning skills, because again, these are not things that students or anyone are born with. This is something that we are taught. So support and encourage their smallest efforts, model the skills that you want to see in students, give opportunities to practice the skills, provide a consistent, reliable presence that they can trust. We talk a lot about having one person in a building that every child can have that they trust. That it is huge, and the research supports it. Guide them from dependence on adults to gradual interdependence or independence, rather. Sorry. That's the gradual release that we were talking about, and kind of connects a little bit to what we were discussing earlier about learned helplessness, right? We want to support them and guide them, but we want to eventually lead them towards more independence. And of course, we want to protect them as much as we can within our zone of control and influence from chaos, violence, and chronic adversity. All right, so I've got another short little video here to build on what Claudia was talking to us about air traffic control and executive functioning. So I'm going to go ahead and start that.
Executive function is the brain's air traffic controller. It intercepts a tangle of inbound thoughts and impulses and steers them towards productive outcomes. Executive function helps students stay focused, plan ahead and set goals, regulate emotions, monitor their own learning, and think flexibly and creatively. But children aren't born with executive function skills. They develop over time. In fact, the prefrontal cortex, the part of the brain which houses executive functions, is still maturing well into our teens and 20s. So teaching executive function skills should start early, be reinforced regularly, and continue up through high school, at least. How do you do that? Don't just teach content. Look for ways to take a step back and give students the skills and the discipline to learn on their own. And remember that failure is part of the process. Academic preparation needs to be taught. Show students how to use calendars and to-do lists, for example, to manage their time and plan ahead. Encourage students to ask questions like, do I have a plan for succeeding at this? What was confusing or difficult about that task? How can I do better next time? The research shows that metacognitive strategies lead to better preparation, planning, and performance. And high stress levels can impair executive function. So consider activities like mindfulness or meditation to help students deal with stress. And don't skimp on recess. Spend the time. The research backs you up. Executive function is a more accurate predictor of success than test scores, IQ, or socioeconomic status.
That is the one that always gets me, is that executive functioning is a higher predictor of success than IQ or anything else. But yet I know as a teacher, and maybe you all feel the same way, I always felt so much pressure to get through the content and to teach all the standards. But what the research is really telling us is that we really have to be thoughtful, and we have to pause, and we have to give children moments to help them manage their stress. And we also have to teach them metacognitive strategies. And so we're going to dive into exactly what those look like now. So one of the things that we wanted to share with you all is that we at Generation Schools Network have a social emotional learning curriculum that is aligned to all of the CASEL competencies. And so one of the things that I was going to put in the chat is a little bit of a freebie here. So these are 10 strategies that you can use that come from our social emotional learning curriculum, but they specifically support executive functioning. And so I just popped that into the chat. So let me know, are you able to open that? Everybody able to access that? Great. And so we started our session off talking about what happens if your morning routine gets thrown off. And everybody was saying, oh gosh, I'm going to have a bad day. This is going to happen. It's not going to work out well. So this is one of the activities that you can do with students. It's very quick, right? So in 1 minute, you would ask students to write down, draw, share as many activities as they think of that they can do every or mostly every week. So very similar to the warm-up that we started with today, right? And we would ask them to be metacognitive because we would ask them questions like, what is most important to you? What are your responsibilities? And so I'm going to ask everyone now to think about where they started the session today, and answer one of those questions, the guiding questions that are on the screen. You feel good when you, I feel sad when I don't. When I do X, it helps me get better at. It is my responsibility to. So if I was picking up on what Claudia is saying, she really likes to get up early. And so she might write down her list of everything that she likes to do in the week and say, I feel really good when I get up 30 minutes early and I can take my time in the morning. So if you all wouldn't mind playing along here a little bit with this activity and use one of those guiding question sentence stems and share with us in the chat or off mute, whichever way you prefer.
I feel good when I follow my evening routine where I pack up a lunch real quick, the counter's clean, all the dishes are in the dishwasher, and then I go to my room and can read or whatever. But it does seem to, I go to bed feeling more rested in a way, like ready for rest, I guess.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing. I'm also getting similar in the chat. I feel good when I leave on Thursday afternoons and my lesson plans are done and all my prep work for the following week is done. That is me too. I feel good when my inbox is at 0.
When I collaborate with other teachers and stuff like that, it helps me get better at understanding where they're coming from, what they need, and what the students need within the classrooms.
Great. Thank you. I love that. It is my responsibility to prepare for the kind of day that I want to have, right? Like understanding your own agency. I love that. Thank you for sharing, everyone. So you can see that these are activities that are built into our social emotional learning curriculum that are meant to help cultivate those executive functioning skills that we know students are not born with, that we need to teach them. And that it takes 1 minute for them to write it down and maybe like 5 minutes of class discussion or share time. And then they can really start to get metacognitive and think about what it is that they need and how they feel and what is going to make them successful. And that'll set them up for that math lesson that they're worried about, that they are fully capable of doing. All right, a couple of other things here that we wanted to share with you all. We've talked about routine. Routine definitely matters. Things like posting a visual schedule of the day for your class or subject, having those routines and trying as much as you can. We know those late start days happen, but keeping them as consistent as possible can be really helpful for executive functioning. Communicating any changes ahead of time can also give people in general and students processing time so that they know what's happening and what's coming. Keeping your materials available, organized in the same location, posting your learning objectives and making sure that you pause and really tie that to a purpose, providing examples of completed work. And we've mentioned this one before, but modeling expectations, modeling the behavior that you want to see in your classroom. Another really great strategy is using a color coding system. So you can ask students to organize their brain and organize their thinking through highlighting keywords in the same color or their vocabulary words, words that they need to look up or words that they want to remember. Any sort of color coding system that you want to set up or that you want to co-create with your students so that they feel organized. And then this is probably my favorite, maybe top 2 of the strategies here. And there's a really great video of this happening in the classroom. And this is a little bit of a longer video, but totally worth it. So here's another executive functioning strategy that we wanted to share with you all.
There are certain foundational skills like executive function, self-regulation, that are prerequisites for the formation of more complex skills like perseverance and self-direction. A child can become a productive and engaged learner from any developmental starting point as long as we intentionally build those skills. Any volunteers? Welcome to a priority list. Abdi, thank you. The most active research right now is actually about adolescence. There are skills that develop uniquely in adolescence that can't develop in earlier periods. An example of one of those is executive function skills, which enable us to organize and prioritize. All right. By asking students to prioritize their tasks, the teacher builds that skill set in an entire classroom. In 8th grade, there's a ton of different deadlines and work to manage. So we do the ABC priority list in order to help them manage all those different deadlines.
Somebody always goes up to start a priority list. It helps us like categorize everything that we need to have and like organize from most important to like, least important.
We have the West Virginia versus Barnard case questions for social studies.
What does that do?
Today.
Well, it's a high priority.
We have a practice clause that we need to do for science class.
They tell me each assignment and like when it's due or like how important it is.
We have the GIS observation for science.
Oh, wow. Jeez.
They share out all the different deadlines that are roaming around in their head, and then they know how to go through the protocol of prioritizing. Can you help Abdi to figure out what the A1 is?
GIS observation?
I think so, because it's overdue, right? So if it's overdue, you got to get that done first. And then what would be in A2?
The West Virginia versus Barnard questions.
It wasn't a teacher saying you should. It was a student saying, here's what I think are the ways in which these activities should be prioritized. So in effect, what this teacher was doing was modeling and teaching executive function skills.
If you're kind of overwhelmed by your work, then you can kind of like know what to do first and then just kind of like categorize it and get it done efficiently.
Okay, so which one of those things is probably going to be your frog? Mark Twain said, if you wake up every morning and eat a frog, everything else will taste great. So I taught them to take their frog from the list, which is the thing they want to do the least, and get it out of the way because everything else will seem easy.
Our frog is like the most important assignment, like it's the one I'm really worried about.
Dry ice. So, okay, you got to do that. What's your frog?
It helps me like realize I need to get this done faster than I need to get this done. So even though this is more fun, I need to get this out of the way before I can do this.
So as soon as we're done with that priority list, I notice everyone gets right to work because they have it spelled out very clearly for them. This is the building of executive function skills in kids.
I'm in what you call it, and then I'm going into a meeting.
Oh. Okay, so I love that strategy, especially at the middle school and high school level, because you're really giving the students engagement and autonomy, and you're asking them to solve their own problems. Let's make a list of all the assignments that we know are due, and I'm just providing you the structure, and I'm sitting over here, kind of, I'm here to help, but really this is about you, and I can't care more about it than you do. And most kids really do care. They really want to get to work. They just don't really know where to start. And I thought that it's always really great to hear that teacher say, after we go through that prioritization task, that all the kids get to work because they're invested and they know what it is that what they need to do to be successful.
I think what I like the most about that strategy is what you said about the teacher. She's truly just a facilitator there. They are the ones identifying what they need to do and when it's due, and they do it all. And I think that just speaks volumes for the skills they're building. And that frog, I mean, you could use that at any level. We got to eat the frog first.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yeah, for sure. So we have one more quick little video. I'm trying to cram in all my favorites for you all so that you have lots to choose from so that you can go tomorrow and have some ideas of things to try. So this is a strategy that comes from Sarah Ward called the Get, Ready, Do, Done. And you'll see in the video how this works, but essentially you're going to start with the end in mind, which is something we as teachers do all the time. And you're going to help students use that and backwards plan how they would tackle a project. Oops, let me go back here. I think I got to click this link. Here we go.
Is starting an assignment or project seem impossible? Do you want to supercharge your lesson planning? Do you find procrastination gets the best of you and your students? Then we have the perfect tool for you. Get Ready, Do Done, a strategy developed by Kristen Jacobson and Sarah Ward, is an easy to use template that helps you and your students fight procrastination while feeling organized, prepared, and ready to tackle the task at hand. It's always a good idea to start with the end in mind. So first, ask yourself, what does the end product look like? This is the done of the Get Ready, Do Done strategy. Once you have a nice picture in mind, the next step is to tackle the do. This is where you write the steps needed in order to reach the end goal. Think of a recipe. Would a child be able to bake cookies for the first time without following the instructions? So why should it be any different for students when trying to complete an assignment? Now that they have a visual of what needs to get done and the steps on how to complete it, it's time to get ready to tackle the task. Collect all the materials necessary so no time is wasted once you've gotten started. Imagine baking cookies only to realize you don't have any eggs. Making sure you have everything you need before you start is the recipe for success. Now that you've finished planning your work, it's time to work your plan. Get ready.
All right, so that is the Get Ready, Do Done strategy. I have found that this one works particularly well when you're planning big projects. So, for example, my kiddo just finished his National History Day project, which is a multi-week project, kind of similar to the science fair, but for history. Um, there were a lot of required elements of this project. It can seem really overwhelming for a 13-year-old to see themselves finishing all of the things that need to be done. So if a teacher were to pause and say, okay, as a whole class, let's talk about what does really great look like at the end? Okay, now let's talk about all the steps that we need to do to help us get there. And now let's talk about what we need so that we can get ready and get started. We as teachers don't really need that. I mean, it's our assignment. We've come up with it, so we know it really, really well. But they don't, and they need some time to process and think through what the end result looks like and what it is that they need to do to get there so that they can get going with it. All right. I also mentioned earlier that we do have a social emotional learning curriculum. I saw we had some friends from Montebello, California, who are in the session tonight. Montebello uses our social emotional learning curriculum called Empowering Education. We really love it, and we wanted to offer to you all both a free trial and we have a scope and sequence that is aligned to the CASEL competencies that we've been discussing tonight. So I'm going to throw that in the chat for you all so you can take a look at that. Our curriculum is unique in that it is translated into Spanish. Not only the student materials, but also the teacher materials are also in Spanish. It spans grade bands K through 12. So all of school. There are differentiation guides for each grade band. We have illustrated stories for our littles. There's 30 weeks of scripted lessons. You can do them really in any order. That's a lot of the work that Claudia and I do is partnering with schools and helping them figure out which units and which lessons are most important to them and their community and their students. All of our lessons come with slide decks, at-home resources, academic extensions, and admin guides. And then we also provide professional development on a variety of different topics. You'll see those on the screen. So Claudia is doing some professional development in her hometown of Trinidad around their cell phone policy. She's been providing professional development for teachers, for parents, for students. We also do professional development on academic mindsets. You're in a professional development on executive functioning. We also do best first instruction, so student academic feedback, classroom discussion, project-based learning. We would be happy to help. So if you have some thoughts on some PD that you would like some support with, please reach out to myself or Claudia, and we'd be happy to help with that. All right, so that is our session this evening, and so we'd love to spend the remainder of our time on our wrap-up question. What tools and strategies are you excited to try? We gave you a variety of different ones to think about. And what are you going to go to school tomorrow and share with your colleagues?